Very good afternoon to you all. We'll just wait for a minute or two for, I think people are just joining. Meanwhile, I'll share the presentation and we'll get it started. Is my voice clear and are you able to see the presentation that is shared?
Yes, ma'am. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, let's get it started. It's time we'll get it started. So we were looking into some basic testing concepts yesterday, what testing is all about, why testing is really required, and some ideas on how testing is done. We started with the manual testing yesterday. We took a very simple form to see how positive, negative, or functional test cases can be written for it. All that we saw yesterday was about manual testing. Now, rather than going on to different types of testing and speaking about all it, so I just thought we'll step into automated test frameworks, which is the core thing in the IT industry today. Every organization, considering the efforts that are involved in manual testing, they are trying to move to a form of doing an automation testing. So today's agenda will be like, we'll be covering three different things. First, we'll try to understand automation testing. For that, we should understand what is regression. So we'll see some key things on regression testing. And then we are going to understand about an automation framework. There is one tool that will be introduced today, that is Selenium. So I have the setup and all that done. I can show you how a very small integration can be done through Selenium. That will be the last 15-20 minutes of the class when we can see the automation itself done through Selenium. Before that, we'll try to understand Selenium itself. So that architecture of Selenium, how it works, what all you have to do. In case you want to automate through Selenium, how it is done. Then we'll move on to trying to access a browser, a type of a very simple piece of code which we can set up and demonstrate through Selenium to see how this automation part typically works. So this will be the broad agenda for the day. Now, while we start, first of all, we have to understand what is this automation testing all about. Now, we are talking about a software which can do anything at all. So if a software can do anything, why can't a software test a software? Does it make sense? If this question sounds logical to you, that a software can test a software, then yes, you are getting my point. We are talking about automation. We are going to write a piece of code. We are going to develop an application, again, a software. For what purpose? This software is made, this application is developed only to test our primary application. This is what we call as automation. We are trying to come up with a way of automating our manual steps which a user has to otherwise do. Now let's take an example here. Now let's say you are starting up with your job. Let's say it's first day. You've been hired by a bigger company and it's your first day. You've been enrolled or you've been taken up as a test engineer. Let's take it that way. Now, initial 2-3 days, you are given some, usually that is how it is. They'll give you some huge documentation. Now, in this case, let's consider just to give you a feel that the application that you're going to work on is very complex. Let's consider it to be an ERP system. So which will have too many things in terms of testing perspective. Now let's say you have been assigned to take up the testing as a manual tester to test that ERP system. Now, so let's say day one, and after your initial 4-5 days of product training and going through documentation, all that, my day one here is all about the day when you typically start hands-on using that system to test. Now, when you open up the system, let's say like you have so many forms in it, like you have hundreds of forms in it, and every such form, let's say, even if you have to test a single form in a ERP application, that form may have anywhere close to 40 to 50 fields. So you will have to open up a form. How does this manual testing happen? So you will have a document where you manually write or you type on a notepad or a Google Sheet, whatever, step by step, whatever is happening on the screen. If it is a manual testing, in this case, let's say you have to fill a form, give some data for close to 50 fields in a single form, submit it, click the submit button and see if it is through. Likewise, you will have to test 40-50 forms. Let's say this is the job assigned to you. They have given you detailed instructions on what each field can typically take. So that is also given to you. And then you will have to use all that and test. Let's say this is your scenario. And day one, so how much time do you think this will take? If I'm talking about 50 fields that are to be filled in a particular single form, let's say even no, if you take like half a minute to check the requirements and see what type of data value that particular field can take and then key it in. Maybe 50 fields half of the time, like half a minute for each field that way. We are talking about 20 to 25 minutes of your time being invested on only filling in the data manually in that form and clicking on submit to see the result. Now, let's say the moment you click on submit, one of the forms, you keep doing 1 or 2 forms and say, let's say on the third form, there is an exception that comes up. Why did it come? You tried one particular, some random data for one of the data field in that form, and there is an exception that is coming up. What does it mean? The underlying application, the application that is put under test, has not handled one particular data value which you have tried, which means that's a failure in the system. The system, if it is an invalid data which it is not supposed to handle, then at least that application should throw up an error saying this is what you have to enter for this field. This is the date field. The format expected is DDMMYYYY. Maybe you're giving in a different format. Error can come. Not an exception. Exception here I'm talking about the software not being able to, your application not being able to handle that case. If one such exception comes as a test engineer, you feel extremely happy. You are under the impression that, yes, I found a defect. Is that not a defect? Now what you have found is a defect. What is your role here? What are you hired for? What is your job here? You have to find all the defects that are there. You may not be able to find all. You have to find as many defects as possible. Let us put it that way. Keep on trying random combinations to see if that particular software is able to handle that. So if you find one set defect, you will feel excited that you have done your job. And how do you report? I'm talking about manual testing. So reporting this defect will be in this form. You have to open up, write a report, write or type a report. There are a lot of bug tracking tools. We will see one of those tools tomorrow, tracking the entire defect life cycle. So the first thing in the defect tracking will be to report, just to tell who should we inform to. We are informing the development team about the defect that has surfaced. And we are proud that we found a defect. And then there, this requires huge effort where you will have to write down what you did. Okay, this is what I did when I clicked on this, when I gave this data, when I clicked on submit, this is the exception that came. And then you have to manually capture, use some screenshots, take it, put that in that report for the developer to understand what really happened when you gave this particular value. This is typically, or rather pathetically, how a manual tester has to work. If it is a very small application involving 2-3 screens, there is no point automating it. Okay, so now let us say this manual tester, what happens further? So she records this particular defect and then passes it on to the developer. You all have to understand how the releases and builds are made. Build is every release, compiling your code and getting it ready for the release. How this software builds are managed back in the organizations. Every time the code is changed, there will be a new build that is generated and then that has to be tested. I'm talking about a phase where the application is still not delivered to the customer. We are on the process of testing it, fixing it, retesting it, fixing it this way. This cycle keeps going. How long? When you are not actually seeing any bugs from the testing cycle, then you can close. Or you have a predefined set of test cases which have gone through at least one successful run. When the build is ready for shipping, then what do you have to do? Packaging. Packaging means what? See, don't think you just have to write a code, compile, and you can give that as a exe to any customer. So now here you will have to package it. Maybe you can use some install shield, or you can use so many tools now to create an installer for your application, which is what we call as packaging it. Now, once you package, that particular package is released to the customer. Every package is related to a release number, which will have a specific build number of this particular software. So 3-4 months before, when you started the testing life cycle, the software build number, let us say, build is what? I'm just, getting your code in a working form, compiling it and building it and having it ready. Usually it is numbered as 1.0. By the time you finish the testing and release it, it can go to 5.0 or 10.0, all your internal release numbers. I'm not talking about the formal release numbers in the market, your internal build numbers. So let's say it goes through this many levels and then it gets released. So now in this case, you have found a defect, it goes to the developer. He gets a new build ready, it comes back to you. Again, you have to test. Now, what are you going to test for? Why are you repeating the test? In one particular form, let's say out of that 50 forms, there was a problem with only that fourth form. Will you test only that fourth form? Ideally, like let's say if you test that, again you will have to proceed further. Let's say again you invest some time, 5th day, 6th day. What will happen if you're manually doing all this? That enthusiasm that you had as a test engineer identifying a defect will get you through for the first 2-3 days. But every day, if this is your job, when you have to test, again it goes even for a single defect fix, they are asking you to confirm, because there is one variable that links through several forms. If he has touched the code to have some impact on that particular variable, then it becomes important that you have to touch all those relevant forms every day as the fixes are made. Will you not feel bored? At some point of time, what will happen is, if this type of testing is that monotonous, at some point, the test engineer will start losing that commitment on it, may feel bored, and they may not try all types. See, slowly what we will do, we will only give limited data. We will not have the enthusiasm to see the system fail. We don't have to, we may not give different data values or any random values and see how it works. So all this, if you do over a period of time, let's say when the final testing phase comes, not all forms after every defect fix was perfectly tested. Let's say this is the scenario. Then what happens? Finally, it is packaged, it goes to the customer. Let us say a similar error has happened at the customer site in one of the forms, and you get to know about it. That is the time when you will feel really very awkward, because you have spent so much energy on it initially, so much effort has gone on it to test. But over the period, as several build releases were given to you for testing, you lost track of it. You did not test so effectively, so the bug has surfaced at the customer's end. So in spite of taking so much efforts, today you are blamed for not testing the application properly. For all these scenarios, why should I keep giving the same 50 fields in that form, same 50 forms testing every day? Code has changed. So the developer is happy, is having something new to do every day. He's changing something, he's fixing the bug. But your test process has not changed. Whatever fix he has made, you have no clue on what he has made, but you only have to reconfirm the functionality. This is what is happening in all the manual testing scenarios today. So the main reason to move towards automation is this. How would you feel if this entire thing can be automated through a tool? So you give the required data fields for those forms are given in the tool, and the tool gives those data to every form. Form to form, you can vary the data, you can upload, and it executes on its own. With a simple run, it executes, and this process is automated. This is a simple way of understanding why only we should automate. So now I was touching upon something like regression testing. There are too many testing techniques. I don't think we'll be able to cover so many things in this limited time. Then and there, if we have to touch upon few things, that alone I will highlight. This is very important, this regression testing. What is this regression testing? Understanding about this regression testing is really very important. So this is a type of testing which is done where you make a if see what all could be the possible changes that happen in the software end. Why somebody would even touch that code? What could be the possible changes that is done? The possible changes that could be done there in the code, like it can be something like, one could be a requirements change. Okay, the customer actually comes to you, and then see now after your entire application is made ready, then the customer can probably this is what we call as the scope change. So he wants to add a functionality, or he wants to make a change in the code to add one other small feature or function. Then you are going to change that piece of code. It has to be tested again. So we are talking about two scenarios where that testing has to be done, repeated all over again. You have already tested those forms. Now I'm retesting the same forms. What is the need? Maybe you found a defect, so he has touched the code for those forms. That has brought in a reason to do it again. The second thing will be to make sure the new functionality that is added is working fine. So in all these two cases, we will be re-executing the test to see the impact of the change. That is one thing. Now here, what you have to understand is, don't confuse yourself thinking this regression testing uh, keeps changing as per the programming language that you use and all that. That is not the case. Regression testing is not dependent on any type of programming language, whether you use this C++ or Java, whatever. It is having no relationship with it. All that you will have to understand is, this regression test by itself is actually a testing methodology. You are testing the product for any modifications, or you are trying to see if any updates are being done. That is the main idea here. So whenever there is a new build, what will that developer do? See, whenever the test engineer, whenever there is a new build that is available, functional testing has to be done. So that functional testing will try to verify the changes that you are making in the existing functionality, as well as if any new functionality is added. So the tester's responsibility is to keep on repeating these tests to see if that particular functionality is working as it was before. So regression test should be part of what? Where should you apply this regression test? Very importantly, this regression test should be part of your release cycle. Now, another common mistake that people do in that projects in your industry real time, they do not consider this regression test at all. How they estimate the testing effort? Again, a small thing here. Remember, every project should be estimated. Otherwise, how will they run? How will they make money? Estimation is important. Those are all project management aspects. We'll not get into the details of it, but just for the sake of understanding, please understand that there should be some time, effort, and money in all this allocated for different phases of your project. Development is going to take this many months. I'm going to deploy this many resources. Development is getting your application ready. After that, I am going to have my testing, for which I will spend this much time. This is your estimation. The common mistake that the people in the industry do for most of the projects is, when they are estimating the time for that particular testing phase. You know how they calculate? They will see the complexity of the application. Then they will go and see like how many test cases. Test cases should be ready by the time you start the testing, obviously. So when those test cases, they'll see the volume of the test cases, the number of resources who are available to manually test these, and they will go with that number. Okay, if this many test cases are to be run and we have these many people, then it is going to be an effort of 2 months, 3 months. Like this, it is calculated. What are they missing here? Is testing all about running the test cases just once and saying, okay, 120 test cases were there, I finished running all of it, I found this many defects. It is not about all this. It is just not about all this. What if you get defects? So there should be a provisioning in your testing phase. You should also think and plan. Do not commit to the customer. Don't just plan for 3 months of testing and tell him we will release in February. What happens? In the 3 months of testing, there are 300 defects that have been identified. So as you fix every defect, there is one more cycle of testing to check that bug which has to be done. In that case, if we are talking about this particular regression test, what is regression testing? So we are going to repeatedly test the functionalities which were already tested. So ensure the organization has to ensure that there is a provision for this. This is the reason why there are delays. All of you would have seen like this particular product is ready for release. You can expect, beta release in the month of June, something like that they will announce. Why are they not able to meet it? It's not because the development is not done. In most of the cases, the development activity would have been completed, but the testing is still progressing because of the number of defects identified, and due to which your test cycles have to be repeated. So this is all about your regression testing. So we are on the process of repeating that particular test. And then in any type of new versions of the code comes, you still have to do it. Now, we have only understood what is regression. We'll now move on to automation part of it. Now, this automated regression test, this is one area, very, very important area. More than automating anything else, okay, more than automating other things, this regression test suite alone, people are more interested in automating. Why? This particular test suite is something that's going to take more time. And if you can minimize the test efforts here, then that is going to give you a very good effect. You will be able to save a lot of time here. Now, please see that the regression test tools. Now, at least now you are getting an idea on what is automation, but how will these automation tools work? Now, let's start understanding that. Initially, I mean, like when I was working, we used to, with QTP is still in use, Quick Test Professional. That's a tool, it's a paid one. That is still in use. You know what that QTP and all used to do? In QTP tool, all that it would do is, we used to write it with simple Visual Basic scripts. Record and playback feature in the tool is considered as something very important. Why do I need that? Otherwise, you have to manually capture. If the problem happens in the 10th screen as you propagate manually when you are testing, every screenshot we have to keep capturing, and we have to show when I was on the 9th screen, this happened. If this alone can be automated, what I want you all to understand is automation can be done at any level. And one more thing, please do not assume when we talk about automated testing tools, do not think that test engineers, manual test engineers, it will eliminate all of them. How can it do that? There is a software written to test your main application. So these test engineers are also going to write some scripts. They are going to do some programming to come up with an application which can test your master application. So this particular test application which they develop, that requires some programmers who are your test engineers. But nevertheless, you can be happy. It will not involve huge programming skills. We are going to see that Selenium IDE and all that. If you are using any such IDE, it is simple. to write those scripts. So you have to know a bit of some programming language, whichever you use for the Selenium. Otherwise, it's no big deal. All those functions will be listed. We don't have to worry about it. We should only know to apply those things and test, mainly your web-based testing. So one feature that we are talking about here is this record and playback type. You will record the test cases. The main thing that this particular automation tools can offer is all that recording and playback type. That is a minimal functionality that is expected out of any automation tool. What is the challenge here? Can you think of any challenge here, whatever we were talking about? I'm talking about automating your entire regression test suite. So that is definitely a very cumbersome task. We are going to add, and what would be the biggest challenge here? What happens if the test case is going to change? Likely to change. Why should it change? The functionality has changed, possible, or we are going to add a few more test cases. Initially, when you planned to write this test suite, you only were able to figure out up to 50 to 80 test cases. But as you do the testing, you found a need to add another 50 or 100 test cases. So as more and more test cases are added, then what happens? This entire your test application. Always remember, automation is about having one more application in place. That also has to be developed. That application has to be tested and kept ready. That by itself is to be treated as a separate software. So it will be very cumbersome if you have to keep adding some test cases to it. So you have to take a call on when you have to go for an automation. We will see some recommendations on when exactly any particular software can go for an automated testing. When should you go for manual and when can you go for automated testing? So I think somebody had this question yesterday on what are the tools available. These are the automated. Whenever we talk about tools available for testing, that itself means that we are talking about automation. There are only two ways to do the testing. Either you get involved manually to write some steps and execute it, or you use some tools. If you are using some tool, even if you are using some basic tools, we are already into automation. What level of automation testing are we to? Depends upon how you use the tool and what is your scope. What all have you automated? Are you automating only that test cases part? Are you automating that execution? To what level you automate and how sophisticated is the tool you use? Depending on all that, we can say that your entire testing cycle is 50% automated, 80%. Not all will have a complete automation. Anywhere between 40 to 80% of the automation can be done. Some manual steps in between they may still want to do, like loading the current build to be tested. To that level, people will not automate. There should be a manual intervention. Today, if the test engineer wants to test build 5.x of that particular software, he has to ensure wherever that testing software is going to search for that build, whatever you have coded as the location for it, it is the responsibility of the test engineer on a daily basis to upload the latest build in that location. To that level, if you want, you can still do but there is some manual intervention required. In these places, they may not complicate your automation. They will ensure that they upload only that build, but that folder where you pick that up can be hard coded in your automation software, where it will pick that and every time you can run. These are some very commonly used tools. Some of them are open source. Web-based testing, Selenium is the one which is very commonly used. The advantage is being an open source, and we'll see how Selenium works and what are all the features offered for it. Otherwise, we have all these also. We have this vTest, Activate. There is one from Rational also. Silk Test is also common. So these are the other tools. I'm talking about regression test tools. So by now you at least understand what regression means. So these are the regression test tools that we are talking about. Now, there is a cost involved in doing this automation itself. This automation cost is actually very, very higher initially. So you have to think twice. What are all the costs involved in getting this automation done? Can you think about it? What are all the things? See, now I'll have to come up with the development of one more application, which is going to test my main application. So this will actually, if you're trying to do this, then the cost will be very high. If you're doing some manual, but ultimately you are getting some benefit. If it was manual testing, it would have been more time consuming. We can save that time and then proportionately this can happen. Now let us take some examples, some real-time scenarios to understand why automation or which are the cases where automation will be required. Now there are several situations which cannot be tested manually. Automation by choice. Now let's not talk about it. We are forced to do an automation. Most of you could have been involved in projects where image processing is involved. You have to compare two images and that comparison of images. So you write an algorithm where pixel by pixel comparison is made. Now, when you have to test, think about the plight of the test engineers. How would they even try giving so many different images which varies pixel by pixel? How possible is it to randomly test? And as I told you, if regression has to be done, if one test case fails, again, after the fix, the entire lot has to be repeated. So you can think of such real-time scenarios where two images are to be compared pixel by pixel. Or let us say this data analytics, when you are into this data science, it is all about huge data where analysis would be done based on it. Many a times you may have to compare two different spreadsheets where there could be thousands of rows and columns which you may have to compare. Another one where manual testing in real time may not be possible. Load testing. See, let us say you are coming up with a web-based application. So most of the times, you can see the sites which are having a heavy traffic on a particular instance. Latest thing, any education sites. Okay, we have this medical council site where this NEET results were published. All of you are aware, a month before it was published. What happened? The site would have been tested, that web application would have been definitely tested. But there were more than 5 lakh people who tried to access that at a single point to see their results. There was a crash. It took more than 1.5 hours for them to resume that, a real-time case which happened. What has been missed there? Maybe it wasn't put on to that level of load testing. The application wasn't tested. When you have 100,000 users, when you have 500,000 users logging in at the same time, what happens? How do you think we can do a manual testing for this? It will require that many user logins to be created and eventually login. Is it possible? Can we do a load testing? Minimal load testing for normal applications, you can create 10 dummy users and you can log in through all that and try from at the same time 10 different machines you can try through different users. But when we are talking about applications which are going to use 100,000 users at a time, which is going to be used that way, definitely manual testing cannot be done. You have to create so many users and fire the test case. This and all, any automated test framework can typically do for you in few seconds. And any performance testing, if you want to do, the same thing holds. So for all this, you definitely have to go and do this type of automation only. So these are some examples real time on what type of applications cannot be tested manually. Now, on the other hand, now that I've told you that these many applications cannot be tested manually, we cannot immediately assume that everything should be automated. Not possible. We cannot do that. So don't get carried away. This particular automation suite also requires to be tested, like, you have to maintain it and you will have to ensure that it is easy to debug and take it forward. Otherwise, what will happen? Your testing team will spend huge time and energy only on getting this automation script ready. But that development of the main application under test, and if you compare the effort taken for this automation test suite development, it may not be justified. So that could be a problem here. So as far as possible, if we are, and one more thing, we are not talking about agile, but a very quick line on agile. We'll go into it if we have time tomorrow. Agile methodology, agile testing is basically moving out from your linear fashion. In a regular form, we do sequential development. So we come up with your requirements, then we do design, then we do development, then we test. A sequential way of progressing. In agile, as and when small increments are done, they move on to that. These two things, that getting on with new modules and testing it, all that happens in parallel. That is how it happens in agile. Then how will you even do the testing? Can we even think about an automation at initial stages? The application is fully not ready. So I would say, if it is all that agile environment in which you are working, you have to think twice before going for an automation in the initial stages. Be patient, let the application be developed fully. So you can opt for some API level testing or any type of without that UI automation. If you automate the UI part testing right at the initial stages at this point of time, when the application is not fully ready, it is getting ready in increments, agile method, then there is no point. So every time you will have to keep updating it. Some test cases may even become obsolete over a period. So all that, do not try. Be clear on your automation strategy. Now, this is how your automation strategy should typically look like. So we are talking about, this is just an example. So before we move on to Selenium and look at it, let's try to understand how to set up an automation strategy. How really can we set it up? Now, if you see this automation strategy, this is just an example. Do not take everything. Do not consider everything for automation. In this example, this is actually a common strategy where you can take all your positive tests. I'll explain what these tests mean with some examples. You can group all those positive tests. You can group all the end-to-end tests as one to be automated. Take all your UI tests, couple them together as one test suite, which can be automated, and all your load tests, which can be automated. Like this, you can take. So now positive tests we already saw yesterday. We understand what are the positive test cases. Why are we taking only the positive test cases here? Positive test cases are going to check your basic functionality, required functionality, how the system is expected to behave. If there is a flaw in that itself, then all those things are to be considered as high severity defects. They would be considered as severity 1, severity 2 defects. And we generally classify the defects based on their severity rating. What is considered a highly severe, where the requirement is not met or it leads to a complete failure of the system. Those things are considered to be high priority defects. So severity 1, severity 2, such type of defects we want to first pay attention to. So that is where we create all these positive test cases. And then what we can do is we can get them completely automated. So here, if you see, this will reduce your testing effort. That is one aspect of it. What do we mean by end-to-end testing? So you can come up with a particular test suite where end-to-end testing should be covered. So all those scripts should come in handy so that it can be tested well. So let's take an example here. We are talking about end-to-end testing. Now let us say we are testing some online portal, some portal through which somebody purchases something. So what are all the key steps involved? I'm talking about end-to-end test. So you have one particular end-to-end test. We are not going to test every functionality. That will be your positive testing. Rather, if there are some bug fixes made or if there is a key release that is going to happen, in those cases, what we can do is we can go for an end-to-end test. So if you see this end-to-end test here, these are the key steps involved. So you are logging in. We are just taking an example of an online portal here. So you are logging in and you have all these, you're going to browse and you're going to select some items. Then what happens? There is some payment option that comes in. So all this will be your front end test. I'm selecting an item. I'm going to pay for that item. What about your back end steps? Now, you also can bring in your backend management here. What all will it manage with? See, like if I'm ordering an item, what are the other steps? The system should check if stock is available. If the stock is available, then how for it to check if the stock is available, that system has to in fact communicate with other interfaces. Maybe they are having some suppliers. They have to check the stock with their suppliers. You all would have seen if you are selecting an item that list 2, 3. If you are in Amazon, list 2, 3. This is available with this partner. All our retailers. These items from these retailers are of this price. That has to be done at the back end. So the front end testing here is I'm logging in, I'm selecting, browsing, and taking all those items. So the back end option would be all these options where your system connects interfaces with other things. So if you submit and see if your payment is through and all that, we are completely doing an end-to-end testing. What all you're testing? You're not only testing the front end pieces, you're also trying to ensure that your backend order management also works fine. So usually the customers, in this case, no, payment options can be tried. For every payment option, I can write 100 test cases. All that we will not do. End-to-end testing means log in, do the base main functionality, click submit, see if it is getting an email is getting dispatched. So one cycle we will write, which at least will cover the major functionalities end to end without going on to the intricacies of it. Automate this and keep. When you will use this? Why this level of end-to-end testing automation is required? This will be required in cases where some release is happening. Simply they will do we call it a smoke test. Not all test cases can be done. They at least would want to run an E2E test so that no one flow, your complete workflow is checked. That is the idea here. Now, these things are what I'm talking about. I'm here about this automation strategies. Now, end-to-end test, and we have this UI test. So here we are talking about the functionality-based test. So you can automate all this and see. We were talking about, let's say, it requires you to select a particular file. There itself, you can have several functionalities. What type of file and all can be selected? What type of information and all can be attached? To that level, if you test, that is what we are talking about here. UI based. UI based is what? Every image there and every radio button or every graph there, every drop down box, everything should be tested. This you separately automate. Now I'm talking about creating separate automatic test suites, having a strategy on how you want to group. You cannot have one single automated test suite covering all type of testing. You can have, but it is not recommended. So do not do that way. Yes, load testing, we already saw what it is. Have a separate thing for it. Like this, you can do. What did I speak about now? I was talking about what are all the things that can be automated. Now we will move on to things that should not be automated. These things for sure should not be automated. We are talking about negative tests or failover tests. See, all these things should never be automated because negative testing and all will require some manual intervention. We are trying to do some type of disaster testing, monkey testing, where what you can do is when the system is operational, switching over some screens or trying to pull out the power or trying to exit, log out from that browser. All these type of things will not be very straightforward. Any negative testing that you try will be some type of disruptive testing that we do, which and all cannot be automated. We cannot automate it, those things. That only is left to the way the test engineer thinks and applies that. What about these ad hoc tests? These tests are something which may not be applicable to the product all the times. So let us say even in your Amazon website, only during the festival season, there is a discount option that comes up. So you want to see the price of the item after discount, before discount, and any other offers that are available. These things are some features which are floated out seasonally in that application. So we don't have to automate all that. It may not be run that many times. So if you do not have a regular requirement for all that, please do not think of automating such things. So that would be one. And what about those tests with massive pre-setup? What do we mean by the massive pre-setup? Let us say you have a product. Now that integrates with a third-party software. It could be like, it integrates with some messaging queue systems. So that would require you to set up some queue systems. And this third-party software, the setup could be complex in nature. Then what you have to do, those scripts are to be automated, and it will be dependent on the setup of the third-party software. All that is unwanted for us to automate. So we'll get on to Selenium now. So here, if you see, of all that we have understood now, if this is a manual testing example, let's say you are having a calculator application, you want to manually test that. These are the steps that you will write. A very simple example of test automation. Manual testing here would be launching that, press 2, press this, press 3, equal to, the result should be 5, close calculator. Let us say if this is the thing, how would you want to automate this? This is how your automation script will look like. A very simple one written through C#, any scripting language you can use. So here you can see all that I have written is, we generally refer to the major application which is put under test is called your AUT. All of you would have heard about SUT, system under test. So you can either say system under test or application under test. How simple it is to write this. All that you have to do is, I'm using these C# related APIs here. So you will launch your particular exe. And then here, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to do a duplication of our manual steps. So I'm talking about mouse click of the second one, and then you're selecting this 2 plus 3. So I'm capturing those mouse clicks. Here button 2, and then the add symbol, and then button 3. And then what is the basic thing in your test script? How should it be written? What is the basic thing here? How would you consider a test as passed? That's what I'm trying to ask. How would you consider it? See here, manually, I know the result is 5. I want to see if 5 comes. I check. But the script has to confirm. If you're writing a script for it, automated script, that has to confirm that you are getting a result as 5. How is it getting ensured? This is the function available in most of the any language or any scripting that you use. We have an assert function, as simple as that. The two things that are compared here. What are we comparing here? The expected outcome as well as your actual outcome. Now this assert function will just check if your expected outcome, you will know what the answer is to be. Actual outcome, how that application behaves. So you hard code that and keep and try to see. That is the purpose of this assert function. Most of the scripting languages, you will have this assert. Some places we also call it checkpoint. They call this function checkpoint. In some places there is one more, they call it validate. So validate, assert, checkpoint, all this means when you're using it in an automation script, the usage of this particular method would be to check if your values, if your expected outcome and your actual outcome really matches. So if that is not the case, if it is not matching, then you will have to do a exception handling, try to see. So this particular 4 steps, if you want to write a simple script, this is how we can write. It's all about automating it. Saves a lot of time and effort. Now we'll move on to Selenium. We have done the setup already. Those of you who want to try, I want to, before I explain about this Selenium, I'll come back to the components of Selenium. I'll tell you what all is required for you, and hold on, trying to open a file. you are able to see this. I'll share this later with you. Now, there are different things. Now, what we are going to try is, like we are going to, this particular Selenium supports different languages and platforms. So we are going to use your Eclipse. We are going to use this Java for it. Selenium works with different things as well. Selenium, understand it this way. This Selenium is actually going to give you an API implementation. So it can give in several programming languages, Java, Python, C#, whatever. So now there are some components of Selenium. We have 4 different components of Selenium. What all is required for you to try this out? These 3 things. So definitely your system should have a version of Java installed. And then we'll use this Eclipse IDE to see how all these Selenium jars can be integrated with it and how we can use that. And then this is important. Now we have to configure this particular Eclipse with Selenium's WebDriver. Now for us to understand all this, a quick introduction on the components of Selenium, then we'll open that Eclipse and see how this is integrated and how it works. Coming back to my slides. Okay, quickly we'll see these components and go back and see how these components are installed and used. Now, this Selenium is a very important tool, an automated test tool. Why is it so popular? One thing is it provides, exists as an open source. So most of the people are able to use it. This is what you have to understand, the simplicity in using Selenium. One is you can do any type of web-based automated testing using it. It can be used against multiple operating systems. At the end, I will show you what all operating systems or what all browsers it supports. Supports most of the browsers. Taken Chrome for today's integration. You can take any such browser, whatever you want to try that with. Multiple programming languages it supports. As I told you, Java, Python, C#, all that it supports. And different frameworks also are supported. Now, these are the Selenium components. We have to understand what is what before we start using it to write some automated frameworks. Now, the Selenium package itself, if you go and install a Selenium package, so we are going to install a standalone Selenium package. So wherein you will have all these components which comes with it. It's packaged with 4 different components. We have a Selenium core. See, originally, not sure if some of you have used any type of test scripting. Long ago, there was something like JavaScript test runner. What they used to do is anything on the browser. Like if a user is communicating with the browser, that can be simulated. Those steps can be simulated. And there was one such thing as JavaScript test runner. That's called test runner, which was used. Then what happened is eventually when they started using all this, then they found that there is a necessity to have a test framework which can be reused for any type of web-based application. If you can reuse, it's not just for one application, but if you can use it against different web browsers, it's going to be really good. That was thought about, and that's how this Selenium core came into existence. Now, this particular IDE, you can just install this IDE. This can be used only as a plugin in Firefox. Please try it out. You can install this Selenium IDE. IDE will simply do recording and playback. See, I'm repeating, when we talk about automation, just for capturing your steps alone, if that level of automation you want to do, using an IDE doesn't require any programming skills and all that. If you are only talking about 20% of automation that is to be done, not your entire software, if only a minimal portion of it is to be done, then what you can do is you can go for this particular IDE alone. You can just use the Selenium IDE that comes in as a plugin which you can use for checking all this. It can be a plugin only for your Firefox browser. You have to install Firefox browser. and then go in for this. Okay, now we'll come back to all these advantages, disadvantages and all. I just want to brief on that components and go to that code. So the second component is Selenium remote control. We have Selenium RC. See, now there was one restriction. There could be this type of restriction, maybe pre-final year, final year students here. We have heard about it. There are some restrictions. We call it same origin policy. What do we mean by that same origin policy? That was the problem with the Selenium code. See, for example, if I'm launching some JavaScript program, let's say I'm launching it from this particular URL, then I will be able to access only those pages within that domain. So if I have to test any application using the Selenium core, then I have to install that entire application on the Selenium core as well as on the web server in order to overcome this same origin problem. See, what I'm trying to talk about here is, if you have this particular JavaScript program, this was the original issue with Selenium. So whatever is there from that same origin, we can still test. But if you, from that, if you want to access a Google page or if you want to access a Facebook page, you again have to go and install that particular web server to overcome this problem. So that is very cumbersome. So what they did was they came up with something called as Selenium RC. This is now supporting wide range of browsers and many different platforms. So you have this Firefox, Chrome and all that here. So you have this RC component of Selenium, and then all your client libraries, whichever one you want to code in, you can use that and have all your client libraries. We'll see how to export external jar files to Selenium and we can use that. See that now. So what is this workflow here? We have to understand this workflow so that when we go and see how it works, it will be clear for us. First of all, you are going to create a test script in the desired programming language. Let us do it in Java now for this demo purpose. So remember, for every programming language that has its own library, that will have its own designated client library. So typically how the workflow happens is, those Java related library files, if we are using Java, those client library will deport all these comments into your Selenium server. So what will the Selenium server do? It will actually convert these test commands into some Java test script commands, and then that will be sent to that browser. So this is where that Selenium core component comes into picture. So now then what happens is, the browser will execute those commands that Selenium core component is used, and then it sends back the response to your Selenium server. Then that Selenium server will give that response to your client library. Okay. So what are all the things that you would need? Remember, you can just try this out. I'll just show now. Now, any programming language, we will take this Selenium with Java. I have only installed the Selenium with the Java and used that. It can support any language, whatever you want to use for Python, anything you can use. And then an IDE for your programming language. In this case, we are talking about, sorry. So in this case, we are going to use this Eclipse. And then test framework and all is not required. Tomorrow I can tell you what is this testing framework. For now, leave it. That is optional. We don't have to use that. Of course, you require your RC component. When you extract all these Selenium libraries, automatically all that will come into picture. The last two components that we have to understand is a Selenium grid. Okay, Selenium grid came into picture mainly because if you want to test your scripts on multiple platforms, and if you want to test it on different browsers concurrently, how would you do that? So all that for those reasons, this component Selenium grid was introduced. So these are the browsers that it supports. And take a look here. Most of it is supported, and the different components supports different type of browsers here. So I'll be using a Chrome browser. I have installed only a Chrome driver for the demo today. Whatever. So remember, if you want to use a different browser, that relevant driver has to be installed. You can go to the WebDriver component of it. If it is Chrome, see the version of the Chrome that is installed on your machine and try to get the relevant driver, download it, use that driver. So here, these are the browsers, different browsers and different languages. We'll take Java and Chrome browser. Operating system, yes, Selenium can be run on different operating systems. And if you see these test frameworks, we have all this. So we have these different things, JUnit, NUnit. I'm not considering any testing framework here. This is optional. Framework is combining all these test suite at a higher level to have a complete automated framework. All that is optional. If you are trying to have only a very small automated setup in place, then you don't have to worry about a framework. We'll not see all this now. So now after understanding these components and how Selenium works, are you able to relate? Can you think what are the things that we have to install? I didn't want to waste time installing all this, so I've already done a setup. Nevertheless, this will be shared with you. It will take 15-20 minutes, maximum 25 minutes. If you don't have this setup, you can install at your end. Share this document at the end. Now, what are the three things required? The programming language which I'm going to use, so have that installed. So I have that JDK setup done. And then I'm going to use this Eclipse and this particular WebDriver. These are the installation steps. We also have people from other departments and first year students, all those as I understand who have joined the meeting. So others would be knowing on a regular setup of Java. I don't want to run through all this. Please go through this if you are not familiar doing a Java setup on your machine. Go through this and understand. It will take few minutes to download your JDK and have that setup. So once you, these things we are talking about a step-by-step installation of your JDK. After you have this, these things are setting up your Java. Now what we will be doing here is, then go ahead, get this Eclipse IDE installed, all those procedure for doing that is given. This again is a simple installation. Please use this Eclipse for Java package development. We also have for C++ and all. Please download it for Java development. These are the steps given here, which you can use and install Eclipse. All these things are common. Now, what is important to us is about this, the third step. So now what you have done, you have your Java setup. We are going to use Selenium with Java. So when you go and try to download these Selenium jars, this is the official website. A very clear step-by-step process is given here. You can use that. What we are going to do is, when you download, please download, click on Java and download it. Try to ensure that you extract all the Selenium related jar files. So when we are going to launch Eclipse, we will have to link these jar files to it. Okay, so then once you have the setup, one last thing, this is all about, I'll show you how to click these packages there. One thing that is not shown here is about your browser's driver installation. So there is, you can Google and find, or I'll add that instruction also with this and send that particular link. Entire setup will take 20 minutes. You can just quickly do that. Now, Chrome driver for this Selenium WebDriver to work for the Chrome functionality, you will have to set it up and install. I will go and open. Share this Eclipse screen to show that. Are you able to see this Eclipse screen? I think something else it shown. Are you able to see that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, hold on. Why is this not popping up? No, just hold on. I'm not able to show this entire screen. This Eclipse is not getting listed as an application here. Hold on, I'll try to close some of these things maybe. Okay. Why is are you able to see the entire screen? Leaving this, I'm trying to show that entire screen which is not coming up.
No, ma'am. We can't see anything.
You're able to see only this particular thing. Yes, I think now it's through. I had too many applications open. I couldn't catch this. Are you able to see this now? Are you seeing that Eclipse screen now? Can of you please confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See now, all that we have done here is, first of all, let's try to understand how this entire thing is done. You can go here once you have, there are some basic settings which you have to do before you write this code and try to execute. Once you have your normal Java setup done, you will definitely have all your Java related jars here. So no issues about it. But you can go to this package. Please right click on that. Go to that build path. Go to configure build path. And then when you come here, you will see, I've already done that. I'm trying to explain these steps to you. When you go there, you will see add external jars. So please select this add external jars. What is our purpose here? Now we are trying to use all the Selenium APIs inside this. We have to bring that here so that it gets linked with that for your code to get executed. So what you have to do is go there. I've done this only. I've done add external jars. And then there you have to choose. Once you install, go through the document where the installation step for Selenium is given. What is important is go and install Selenium server standalone latest version. This is the latest. That particular path you can give there. Once you do that, then what you will get something like this. I've done that already. Then what you can see is, as part of your referenced libraries, you will see this entire Selenium jars which is being used here. So 1 minute. Yes. So this you have to first do. Otherwise, what will happen? Whatever function which you use here, you will definitely not be able to link with that respective thing and see there. So now what I have done is, see, first of all, after you do this, you can go, people who have already written small code in Java, you can go and create a package. After you create a package, maybe we can create one. Okay. Then you can have a new class here. So once you create, okay, what I will do here is, you can have a main function also here. You have this particular class that is created. Then what you can typically do here is, we will write a small piece of automation code here. See, for example, first when you start, now what all I have done here, I am using all these particular APIs of Selenium to be done here. So here, let us say you first, if you have to have this, all this WebDriver functionalities written here. See, for example, in our new class, we'll take this. You can see an error here. If you do not link with it. Now you can see an error here. What is the problem? Just click here and see. Now here, there is a problem here on using this particular WebDriver function because you have not even imported that here. The problem here is you will not be able to use this until you import. So here what you can do is, you can come and add this. This will be possible for you only if you are able to, after you export all these jars, then you can import the Selenium related WebDriver functionalities here. So come back here. What I'm trying to do here is a very simple functionality. I'm going to invoke a browser. So you can write a simple function this way to invoke your browser. So if you are, let's have a small function written here. Okay, so here we'll see step by step on whatever we are trying to do here. Now let's say the very first step that you are planning, you have to give here is, I have to mention, this is where I'm talking about what particular driver you're going to use. The benefit of using all this IDE is you get prompts on what are the properties to be used. So here I have given this web driver, which is your Chrome driver here. There are two arguments that this set property will take. So one thing would be, which is the driver, which is the browser that you are going to use. I repeat, whichever browser, if you want to use Firefox or whatever, that respective web driver you have to install. That instructions are given there. I've installed a Chrome driver. Then you have to mention this particular path, wherever that driver file has been kept. What are we typically trying to do here? I'm going to use a Chrome browser to invoke my automation functionality. Fine. I'm using this Selenium WebDriver component. There, since I have all those jars exported, I'm able to use those APIs here. Then I will be using this. Now what I'm doing here is for this particular Chrome driver, I'm going to instantiate. I'm only trying to have 2 or 3 different, I've only taken some 2, 3 functions here. See here, the first thing I want to do is I want to delete all the cookies, very simple function which I've given there. And I want that thing to be maximized. What is this driver here? This driver is nothing but the object that I've created for this particular WebDriver class. This will not work if this import is not there. You can manually add that import statement, or when the error prompts, you can double click, it will say your WebDriver related libraries are not available. It will itself prompt advantage of using IDE. Just click that import, that line will get added here. After that, you can start using this driver object. Go start using this driver object. I'm instantiating a Chrome driver here. So here, what am I trying to do? Through this, I'm controlling that particular URL. I'm going to use this automation test here. I'm going to automate a test rather to open a web browser. All that I'm going to do through a script. So here, mention the driver, whatever browser you want to use. These are the functions. These are all the APIs provided by your Selenium, where you can use this once your Selenium jars are imported. I'm using 2 different things here. Delete all cookies. I first wanted to go to a particular URL. By then, no, delete all the cookies. Maximize the URL is the other thing which I want to do. What are these timeouts? You don't have to get on in deep about all this page synchronization. Too much not in scope of the topic that we are discussing. See, you would have noticed if you are trying to load any particular URL. So we will have that being loaded for a while. And then now what we are trying to do, I am invoking through my browser and I'm trying to open a URL. My particular URL is my AUT. AUT means what? Application under test. Let's say I'm going to test a website. That is my AUT. This is, I'm showing this for a web-based testing. So that particular URL should be mentioned here. So for now, you can understand all these things are given for page synchronization. This function, ideally, the first argument of this function is the wait time that is involved. And all this you can try this out here. There are several page synchronization options that you give whenever like this. As you do, you can have all these timeouts. You can see here. You have different things. You can do some things like a wait. You can have implicit wait. Implicit wait will help on the page synchronization. These are the commonly used things. Invoke browser is one other function which we will try to do that. So now I have given a page synchronization wait time here. And then this is the main thing, whichever URL you want to test. Okay, here, see here, for this particular WebDriver, use the get function. I'm trying to use our own website. I've just given SRMIST here. Okay, then if you want to add a try catch, you can always it's always good that you have some try catch being done here. So here you can go and use this particular thing, and then you can say surround with. For people who are new to all this code, you can please add a try catch. What is this try catch block? What if I have not used any of the APIs properly? Then that exception will not be handled. So it's as simple as highlighting this and then surrounding it with a try catch block. Added that as well. Then you have that exception will give you a trace of the problem here. So this is what all have we done. We are trying to use the Selenium's WebDriver component. It's one package. If you download, there are 4 components in Selenium, but we are talking about one single package of it. warnings, just ignore. Are you able to see? This Chrome is now being controlled by my automated test software. And what is it? I've only done to maximize that. And I'm trying to control through Selenium to open this up. All that we have done is this. Afterwards, you can keep adding scripts. Whatever controls you want to add, your mouse clicks on that mouse click, use assert functions. Keep going on. If it is a form that is coming up here, you can keep changing it. So this is a very basic thing where I have, see, for example, all that you have to change. This is where the URL that you want to test is put in. We'll change this and try running it. This is a very basic scripting on all that we are doing is deleting the cookies, maximizing the particular URL and showing it up through this script. More functions can be added. It's all very simple to keep adding different test steps. So to see if it is working fine, changing this to google.com. Let me run only this portion of the script. Remember to see, actually I was showing all this. Please remember to use this invoke browser. So go to your main function and you can instantiate an object for this particular class, whatever class we are using for this, and kindly call this invoke browser function. I was only showing this. So go and have this also ready. Now I've just changed for you to see the effect of it. All that I've done is I've changed this particular part of the code. Going to give a run again. This is the page synchronization which we have written, the 30 seconds wait. Are you able to see this Google screen being pointed out? Whatever you want to give the further ones. Once you try this, you can use all those functions there. Maybe I can also share the list of functions which are commonly used to test any. You can keep using like how we used all this maximize, delete all cookies. The standard APIs of Selenium is listed with a very clean description that can also be shared. Yeah, try to add this script can be shared, and with that, anyway, I will. You can add 2 or 3 more functions to see. Now we have done this, just hitting that, maximizing it and seeing it. Go ahead and data values also you can get. Now I'm only invoking the browser just to give you a feel on how this Selenium tool can be used for. You would have noticed it's clearly mentioning that Chrome takes control of the browser. I'm invoking that Chrome driver through this. Remember to install Chrome and mention that path here, otherwise it will not work. Okay, so this is how your Selenium works. This is, though this is a very a small example that we have taken today to try, nothing big over this. Once you understand this concept, you learn how to set up this automation framework this way. You can keep adding different classes on whatever type of testing you have to do. Grouping all these packages and creating a test framework. If you remember, I was mentioning the test framework as optional. I have not created any framework and all here. I'm just using a simple package with a class to invoke the browser and see that there. To that level, we are using this. So you can play around with this. Installing one more driver is no big deal. Another few minutes it will take. So see if it is invoking with that particular browser. Go to Firefox browser. I showed you a list of browser that supports. You will get a feel of it. That will give you a feel on how to use this Selenium. Beyond that, testing your application requires the relevant application knowledge on how you have to typically test it. Fine. So this is all about the components in your Selenium tool. What we have seen today is a automation, test automation. I couldn't cover those benefits, advantages and disadvantages of these components and all. Just, I'll share the slides at the end. You can take a look. Don't worry about all that. It's very useful. There are few limitations. Even this Selenium RC has cut through that. Otherwise, if you are using these Selenium drivers, this is what I was talking about. We will be able to go to Selenium org HQ, all that those pages which are within that domain, original versions of Selenium. Now this particular Selenium package the standalone server package recently released, which we are using here, this cuts through that limitation. That's why we are able to move on to a different domain here. Otherwise, what is the point? For each one of this, you have to install the relevant web server for the URL which you have to test, which may not be that feasible. So that problem is sorted. Like that, there were some limitations. There are some minor limitations, but overall, the benefits of the Selenium you can remember. So it is all about giving you different platforms, supporting it on different languages, supporting it on different OS, and then different browsers. All those browsers, OS, and all that was listed there, which I showed to you. That's all I have. The plan for tomorrow would be, see now, we started with what is manual testing. Today we started understanding what is automation testing through a tool like Selenium. So tomorrow we'll move on to, there are other features of bug tracking. When you post all this, we'll try to use this Postman tomorrow. That is one open source tool. That is part of defect tracking. Once your defect is surfaced, how you track and take it further. Jira is a common agile based tool. Let me see, we can probably have a quick demo. We'll understand what is Jira, how it is used. That's very common open source or agile. Something on the agile we can touch and see some Postman and Jira tools tomorrow. That Postman has got nothing to do with agile. That is for API testing. We can take that as a separate item and try our hands on how post receive commands and all work with Postman. That's very useful. A lot of people use to check any responses. They use this Postman for API testing. Okay, so that's all I have. Any questions, anything that you would like to discuss? Okay, I have some question, Rinku. Let me know about the addressing of the web. Yes, yes. So here, this is the location where I have my Chrome driver. That's what I mentioned here. This double slash is the format required for your Java there. This backslash has to be preceded this way. The location where I have, this is my location where I have extracted that Chrome driver. So I've mentioned that there. Wherever you have that Chrome driver, that web driver, you can take that. So this is my location. I'm not sure what your question is typically. If you're asking about what is that which is mentioned there, it is your local location where you have got that. This is my download folder. So this is where I have this. So I mentioned it here. Okay, so this in this I have this compressed folder. This is my folder. So don't give this folder alone. In fact, this is that Chrome driver exe. Oh, have I not shared? Are you able to see? Whoever had this question, this is where I have extracted my Chrome. It's just a download path where I have extracted my Chrome driver. That exe path. If you are using Firefox driver, whatever, get that downloaded. I'll share that link which has all the installation steps. Only these things you have to install. You have to have your Java setup done. Use your Eclipse for Java, and then Selenium is important. Export all those jar files to this, then they'll be functional. This is important. Whichever browser you want to invoke, the respective driver you have to download. That has all steps other than this driver installation that I can send as a separate document. Any other questions? Screen, yeah. Are you saw that now? Sorry, I didn't realize that I was not sharing that screen. Hope it is clarified. Rinku. Ma'am, is it clear? Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else? Please try this out. you will get a feel of doing some automated test scripting. I can also show how this IDE works. Simple recording playback. That's very simple. That gets inserted as a plugin in Firefox. I'll show that even tomorrow. People who don't even want to write this level of code, you can still do wonders with IDE without using even this level of Java coding. Fine. Anything else? I think the attendance for today, that form was shared. Please remember to use that, submit it before you leave. Any other questions or anything that you would like to share? Thank you all for joining me today. We'll have this same time tomorrow with the topics that we have planned for the third day. Thank you all. We'll catch up tomorrow at the same time. You can fill that form and then you all can leave the meeting. Thanks. Thanks for being with us. Give me